Hello again. I'm back off holiday, which is good. We've got 3 weeks to go until the 2-day rally, which is our local event. So no travelling away to get to it. So the car is getting a once over. Well, there's a few bits and pieces to do. I've been in France and I brought some mountain bike heavy duty thick cables. So they're long enough, they're just over 2 meters, to keep in the car as a spare throttle cable, seeing as that's what went wrong last year. I know that there's twin cables on this and one's been replaced recently. So I'll have a look at them. There was 3 holes in the floor where the roll cage used to be. And 2 holes here where the false floor used to be. Right, so fortunately, the idea is, as long as the bolt doesn't fall through like that one does, I'll put a washer on this side. I'll put a washer on the back, and a nut, and then cut the excess length off the bolt. I don't want a proper bolt, I want a dome head one, so it doesn't catch my feet out at all. And that will make that airtight. Well, not airtight, but it will continue the bulkhead to seal it. And I'll have to check and make sure there's no other holes in it that will allow anything to go through. I've just checked the dates on the extinguisher, which it's got a service due by date here. Very hard to see because it's so reflective. You put a torch on it, and the handheld as well. I've checked that dates, so they need a service in October 2025. So that's going to keep you going for a bit. And I presume you could say the end of October. So maybe we'll get away with using them next year before they need a service. I've also had a look at the dates on the harnesses, and not valid after 23, and we are now 24. But this standard 8853 2016 means that you can go 5 years past the not valid after date. So they're all right until the end of 2028. So that's good. I need to check the intercom, make sure that works, because we're having a few problems with it before. I did notice last time I used it at the hill climb, when you turn the key anti-clockwise, it lets you have the intercom and interior lights without having the buzzer or the ignition on, which is quite handy, because I couldn't understand why it worked like it did before. I need to put a mounting somewhere for the fire stick. I just checked the dry sump tank in the boot and it is totally empty. I've left the car when I've been away 2 weeks, probably 3 weeks since I used it, and there's oil coming out of it again, but the engine's full of oil now. So even though I've jacked it up, maybe I need to jack it up more. I think it's just something I'll have to do. I have to put the cam belt around the oil pump belt again, and which is that one, and I'm going to have to pump all the oil back to the tank in the boot before I start it. The beam breaker needs to come off. I brought some magnetic squares to go on the doors for if I'm doing a hill climb, because you're not supposed to use the car on the road after the event with the numbers on. So at least that way I can put the numbers on and just peel the magnets off. I'm trying to order 2 soft Hoosiers. It's not as easy as I thought it would be. Being in Jersey, people have got them, but they don't want to send to Jersey. So I've either got to find them, get them, find someone who's coming over. Loads of people will be coming over for the Jersey Rally, but you don't get the tyres until a couple of days before, and it's all a bit pushed for getting them fitted. And also, we don't pay VAT in Jersey, so if I get them shipped to somewhere in England that are coming over to Jersey, I'll have to pay the VAT and buy someone a drink. So I'll keep persevering, see if I can come across some. I need to give it a clean, because I haven't cleaned it since I've had it. I've hoovered it, but not cleaned it. And I need to sort this wing out as well. So the guy who knows what he was talking about, he was saying this is further back than it should be. He said all this corner has gone in. So he said what you need to do is get a port power inside and pump it, try and get this straight. And he said he reckons that will pop out and go back to normal, and it might move the wing away from the door a bit more. What I do need to do is check the brake discs and pads. So I've got 3 weeks, so it'll give me time to order some. So I think I'll pull a wheel off now and have a look at them. Yeah, because it's got night stages, this rally. It starts on a Friday afternoon, goes through the evening, and then finishes on the Saturday. I'm going to have spotlights on, so I'm guessing earth and power for the spotlights that run out here, but I will have to double check that. And there's a spotlight switch inside, so I have to check that conforms. That's them in. I don't know why one of them was a lot bigger than that hole was bigger than the other ones. You can still see the hole, but there's a washer like that underneath it, so that is sealed. And whilst I'm in here, the GoPro, it's I can't reach it, it's a nightmare. So I'm gonna have to sort something out with that, mount it somewhere else, or get a remote control on off bit. Mind you, I suppose Greg can reach it. I need to get some drinks bottles in here as well. Make sure the pens are all right. There's more lights. I need more navigational lights. So she's got the map light, that one, but it needs there was a light up there before in the other cage which I took off, so I need to put that back on just so she can see what she's doing. Well, I've done a bit of research into the alternator, and a friend's been in touch saying that the earth for the alternator is very important because it needs to be the same size as the power it provides, which I don't understand electrics that much. I can put a bulb in and a switch and relay and stuff like that, but the workings of it I don't understand. Now, this had a really small earth on it, but what I have noticed as I took the alternator off is down here, that's the alternator bracket. That's like it's not a metal pad, it's a pad to stop vibration, I presume, and these are like the same sort of pads behind the washers here, which will be stopping it from doing a big earth through the block, through the mount, which is how my BMWs have always earthed through the mount. So they've got a solid earth onto the block. This was earthed, this alternator had this bracket on the other side. And what I noticed when taking it off, a massive amount of play in it. Yeah, that side's not much better. And it was, there's no way to earth through there because they're like nylon in there. I suppose you could, the bolts could be earthing it, I fix it on, but the actual earth lead was about the same thickness as that, going from this top bracket to, I think it was going to the bottom bracket. So it's going from the water pump to where it fixed onto the alternator, which not sufficient, I don't think. So there could have been a possibility that that was what was smoking. Let me have a quick look, see if I can find the lead. Right, I can't find the cable that was originally earthing it. So I found out that this wire cable that I've used is 65 watt. Apparently it's a 100-watt alternator, so you need 100 watts to earth it. So I don't know what this cable is, but if that's 65 and it's a fraction of the size, that's got to be over 100. So that is actually from BMW's 328i. So I might just cut this part off, put an end on it, and use that as an earth. What I've found out, which I didn't know before, you have the main power feed. Well, not feed. That's where it's recharges the battery, and you have an earth, obviously, and then you have the exciter wire for the ignition lights. So when you turn the ignition on, you get a power from the ignition going to the bulb, and this is an earth. I think I've got this right. So when you start the car and the alternator starts charging, this goes from an earth to a positive. So you get two positives going to the bulb, which will make it not work, so it turns it off. And then when revs go down or you turn the ignition off, then, well, not when you turn the ignition off, if the engine stops turning, that will go back to an earth again from the positive, and the light will come back on. So they're quite basic. Sometimes you get 3 wires on the back, so you've got, that's an earth, the main feeds, the one to the bulb, and sometimes you get another one, which is the power supply from the ignition to the alternator. But I presume this takes a feed from the main power in, but that doesn't make sense, does it? So yeah, no, that makes sense. So this one, the main power in goes, oh, I don't know. That's what I mean about electrics, isn't it? I'm sure it's pretty basic. You've got an 12 volts goes from the ignition to the bulb in the dash, and this is an earth. Okay, when it starts charging, some clever magic in this makes this earth a positive. It flicks over or something when it gets to a certain voltage, which then makes 2 positives not make the bulb work. That's my understanding anyway. I could be miles out, but that sounds basic and quite a simple way of doing it, and quite a clever way. But apparently if you don't have a bulb or the exciter wire, it will not charge. It needs that resistance to make the charge start or whatever. But for some reason this won't, the bulb doesn't go out to about 4,500 revs. I think it might have a reduction pulley on the pulley wheel. So because it's quite a high revving engine, it stops blowing the alternator. So I think I'm ordering a new alternator anyway. And I'll probably put it on and use this one as a spare. Because if the smoke's probably been coming off the wire. I wish I could find the other wire. I'm sure it'll be around somewhere, because I don't tend to chuck stuff out like that. So I like to analyse it afterwards. So, but I've had a clean up in the garage. And I know what I'm like. I would have chucked it down somewhere thinking, well, it's there. I know where it is if I don't know where it is, but I'll find it if I need to. I can't be bothered looking for it. But it was a wire about that size, and there was hardly any wires left where it came out of the crimp. It reduced quite a bit, so it made it even less capable of earthing. So what I'm going to do is make a proper earth out of a thicker cable than that, earth it properly, put it back on. I'm going to get new rod ends for this, because they're well worn now, and stick it back on. It was intermittent for some reason. You'd think the earth would have burnt out a long time ago, but I know Minis used to have problems with earthing, and then they'd earth through the throttle cable, which would keep them going. So, you know, maybe it was managing with a small wire. What doesn't make sense, though, well, it does make sense really, is maybe when power is supplied from the ignition to, no, there's no power that goes through here. That's an earth. I don't understand why it was smoking before I'd started turning it over then. Well, I've just got to do what I can and see how that works. But it's intermittent, so it might work fine until you really need it to work. All right, I can only do what I can do. Let's give it a go. That's the new alternator that's arrived. It looks exactly the same as that one, but a lot cleaner. And the differences are, this has got a twin belt pulley because it's for a Sierra 2 litre, a Cosworth and Transit van. So I've just checked that's got the clockwise thread on it. So I'll have to use the router gun to get that off. Same here, swap them over. And the differences I've noticed, that's just got a little hole in the middle, whereas that's got an Allen key locator, I presume to hold it while you undo it. Apart from that, it's all the same on the back. Same connectors and everything. So I'm going to whiz that on. I know this one still works, so that will be my spare one now. So fingers crossed. I've noticed under the bonnet, above the alternator, that it's quite dark and black. So I don't know if it's bad earth that's been causing the problem. Hopefully we'll stick this on and we'll see how it works. I know the guy who owned the car before had a lot of problems with the alternator. So maybe that was down to not being earthed properly. Let's go and stick it on. Here's Old Faithful, sitting here. Right, yeah, poor thing, neglected. Covered with bits and pieces. Right, I've seen the spotlights. You just see the light in the back corner. Right, to get to them, I'll have to try and get this out the garage, which, look at it, poor car. It's going to be a nightmare. I've got everything in the way. It's pouring down the rain. So what I'm going to have to do is shimmy it across the front of the roof again and try and get it. So hopefully it's not going to do any damage. But let's go get them. A success, managed to get those. No damage to the roof. I took my shoes off, so I've kept my feet on the, take some of the weight on the lip of the bonnet. Yeah, the reason I've still got this car is I love it. I just, I couldn't bear to sell it. I've built this car from a bare shell. I've been right through it. I know every nut and bolt on it. And I've not really, I don't know how the Escort's going to work. So I don't know if the Escort's for me. I'm loving it at the moment. It ticks all the boxes, but I love this car as well. And obviously the Escort has cost me a lot of money. And Escorts seem to be holding their value at the moment. I can get back what I paid for it. But I might love the Escort. But I don't really. It's rammed in a garage. It's covered in stuff. But it's out of the way. It's not a problem to keep it. Right. Let's go and see if these fit on the bonnet. They should do. Yeah, they fit. I've had to turn these brackets around, but fortunately they've got like serrations on them to stop the lights from twisting backwards and forwards. They won't be going there. I'll probably put them further forward because anything in front of them will get lit up, and you know you can get a reflection of stuff in the bonnet and on inside. So further forward you go, the better for me. I was going to put some riv nuts in, but as it's going in this way now, I'm not going to be able to get anything into them anyway, so I will put the nuts and bolts that came off them. Some of them got big washers on, so at least I can undo the nuts underneath. They're going to be on for 6 stages. Well, I've got to be on for scrutineering and then take them off again for the first 6 stages, and they're on for the next 6 stages and they come off again. So I've used these on the E30. They're very, very good. That one's good, but there's no way that's going to fit. That's way too big. That just fits on the E30, which must have a wider bonnet. Right. No, I'm not going to put these on yet because I've got to do the alternator, and they weigh quite a bit and keep the, you know, it's hard work getting the bonnet up and down with those on. Right, I've swapped the pulleys over, but what I've done is I've just put a little bit of thread lock on the nut. I'm just thinking with the, because it's got a sequential gearbox, the revs are going to be up and down, changing quickly. I don't do anything to be able to loosen that, so just a bit on just to hold it in place. Right, I put it on. I had the top bracket on. I've done it up tight underneath, but that's not good. So I'll take it off again, and I'll compare it to the other one. I'll just measure up all the gaps in between it and see where we are. Right, I've been all day on this alternator now. I'm really struggling to get it back in. There's just not a lot of adjustment. I don't know what sort of bracket that is, if it's the standard Cosworth bracket and it's a different alternator, or I'm not sure. I brought 3 different size, well, 2 extra different size belts, hoping that would help, but what a nightmare getting it on. To get it off, I had to slide the pin out and then wiggle it about so I could slip the belt off it. So I put the belt on and I've tried getting it to line up and it's just not having it. So what I've done is I've given it a couple of reliefs here. There's one here, there's one there. So I'm hoping now it'll we'll be able to close it a bit more to get the belt on it and then open it up again. Because I can't be doing, you know, if you're halfway through the rally and you've got 15-minute service, you've got to change an alternator. It's not going to happen. So yeah, I had to swap all the front pulley over from one to the other. A different size spacer on the inside, so I had to swap that over as well. I've also found this top bracket was at a really bad angle, so that's possibly what knocked the bearings out inside. So I put this spacer on, so we'll find out more once I got the alternator on, but it looked like a bit better when I was trying it out before. Right, that's the alternator back in. It's been an absolute nightmare, it really has. There's a spacer that I put in to keep this straighter, so there's not such much of an angle. The earth now is wedged between the spacer and the casing of the alternator and goes to there. I've just got to tighten that up. Goes to the block. I still need to put a thicker power feed that goes to the battery, and yeah, I've ground down where I can to make it easier to fit. So hopefully if it has to come off again, which fingers crossed it won't, it shouldn't be so much problem. Now there is movement in the mount. It's mounted on like rubber and it does have a bit of movement in it, but I'll have to speak to the guy who built the car. He you know, he's obviously used it for a long time, and there's a reason why it's got rubber mountings on it, and if I go and change them and put solid ones on, it might go back to square one again. So I'm not, you know, it's quite, you can't feel anything like that. It was just when the alternator was off, it'd move. It's probably taking up the slack with the tension on the belt. It's very close to the rad as well, the water pump is. But like I say, it's been like that for a long time. Right. Next job is fit the light bars on the bonnet. Right, I think that's where the spotlight's going to go. I'd want them down the front really, but there's a double skin on the fiberglass bonnet. And this, I can go straight through. It's only one bolt, just a big washer on the bottom. They've got rubber pads that go underneath them. I've just had a bit of a nightmare with the extinguisher. Because it's an electric one, I thought I'd just test it. And if I press this button here, just to let you know that everything is working, connected. And then you can test the battery, pulling it down. And when you push it up, if I was to press the button now, then the extinguisher would go off. But when it's on the middle position, I can press the button and it'll just do the light. But it wasn't doing the light, and I had to take the extinguisher out to check the date on it, because it was hard to see. And it pulled there's a wire connector here, and it pulled it off. So fortunately, I put that back on, and we're good now. I'm still struggling to find the spotlight feed. So I think what we'll need to do is go from the stalk, find out where the high beam feed is. But there is a switch on the little dash, which I think is something to do with the spotlight. So I might take the little dash out and see if I've got any power going to it. Yeah. Alternator's been a nightmare, but it's done now. I'm going to wrap up there, and because there's still quite a few bits to pieces to do, and I'll keep you updated as to what else I've got to do to it. We've got 2 weeks, yesterday it was, so just under 2 weeks before the rally. I've been going out doing wrecking stages in the night time with the navigator. So we're sort of getting organised and getting sorted. Just got other bits and pieces to get done and get the car sorted out. She's got to try the seat out, and then we can go from there. But yeah, looking forward to it.